On June 25, 1950, North Korean forces poured over the 38th parallel in an attempt to unify the Korean peninsula by force. The ill-equipped and ill-prepared South Korean, or ROK, forces were unable to mount much resistance. Seoul and many other parts of the country fell into communist hands quickly. After almost 2 months, the South Koreans were on the verge of defeat. The United Nations, led by the United States, was able to push back North Korean forces. The UN had almost all of North Korea under its control until October 1950, when Chinese forces crossed the Yalu River into North Korea and attacked UN forces. Ill-prepared for this new foe, UN forces were pushed back to near pre-war lines. With the Chinese and its vast amount of troops now in the fight, those lines stayed relatively static, with neither side having a clear advantage. On July 27, 1953, an armistice was signed which ended the fighting between the two Koreas and their allies, with the hopes of a peace treaty to be signed. No peace treaty was ever signed, and the Korean War is still officially in progress. The Korean War claimed the lives of 178,000 soldiers who died defending South Korean territory, and anywhere from 367,000 to 750,000 died fighting for or with North Korea. Worst of all, approximately 2.5 million civilians were killed during the Korean War. In October 2008, Kim Jong-il suffered a severe stroke that caused him to go into a coma for a brief time. Even though the stroke somewhat impaired his judgment and decision-making abilities, Kim Jong-il knew it was imperative that he start grooming his successor should he suffer a debilitating stroke or pass away. The decision was made that Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-il's youngest son, would take control of the country following his death. This decision was known by many high-ups in the North Korean military, and soon political infighting started within the army and other branches of the armed services to win over the next leader and Grand Marshal of North Korea. Once the infighting intensified, a massive increase in skirmishes took place between North and South Korean forces, culminating with the sinking of the ROKS Cheonyeon. However, none of the raids, border skirmishes, or other incidents had ever escalated into full-scale war. That changed on November 23, 2010, during a South Korean military exercise. Artillery stationed on Yeonpyeong Island fired shells into waters that are claimed by both North and South Korea. In retaliation for what North Korea saw as a violation of their territory, North Korea returned fire on South Korea's Yeonpyeong Island, which is located in the Yellow Sea. It was apparent that North Korea was using old maps and intelligence, since many old military positions, which had now been converted to civilian use, were targeted, and nearly 70 South Korean homes were destroyed. After the first rounds of North Korean artillery fell, 2 South Korean Marines were killed, 2 civilians were also killed, and another 16 civilians were injured, 6 of them seriously. South Korea turned their guns towards North Korea and returned fire on North Korean artillery positions. The ROK decimated North Korean artillery positions and caused a considerable number of North Korean casualties. North Korean Colonel Sa Ho-jin saw an opportunity and wanted to use the current situation to his advantage. First, he wanted to prevent any damage to the perception of the North Korean army to the outside world should casualty numbers become public. Second, he was also aware of the poor health of Kim Jong-il and knew that he was grooming his son, Kim Jong-un, to take control of the country. He thought that if he could provide a triumphant North Korean victory, the leaders of the nation would view his actions favorably, enabling him to rise through the ranks of the army of the DPRK. On that afternoon, Colonel Sa Ho-jin independently issued orders to elements of the 25th Infantry Brigade to commandeer civilian fishing vessels and head for Yeonpyeong Island. They were ordered to silence the South Korean guns, eliminate any enemy resistance they find, and to arrest any civilian who does not assist the North Koreans in completing these objectives. Any civilian who was arrested was to be brought back to North Korea to live out their days in one of the many North Korean labor camps. Little did Colonel Sa Ho-jin or the rest of the world know that at the time, this would be the first action in what would soon be known as the Second Korean War.